Yeah, we should question our beliefs, especially because we don't know what we don't know, especially what you know of this lesson. What do you deserve? How should a man treat you? How were you treated when you were a little girl? How did how do you see men now? Do you see them as a comparison, a competition? Do you see men? I mean, I laid it out in the class. I know it cut that short, but I laid out a lot of examples. We should question our beliefs, even time to time, for two reasons. Number one, maybe we've grown out of certain beliefs that no longer serve us. Number two, it could also strengthen our conviction of our beliefs because doubt actually gives us greater faith. When we wrestle with it and realize, oh, it matures our belief. Doubt actually, when we get past it, matures our belief. So, yes, we should question our beliefs about marriage. Is marriage forever? That's one of the things that is really common. I remember when I came to the United States, it was foreign to me, and I was in sixth grade, and I remember this girl, Kate, she was probably in, I don't know, seventh grade, eighth grade, and I remember her, I can hear her voice, and she's like, I know I'm going to get divorced someday because my parents got divorced. It's just what happens. And so I remember thinking, wow, she just thinks she's going to get divorced. Like, I just thought it was foreign. And in the Philippines, there was no divorce. So that was really foreign to me. What can I do? It's how we question it. So the 7, 38, 55%, depends, you can say, you don't treat me that way. Or you can say, honey, can we talk about the way I believe I deserve to be treated? So much happens in how we say it, the 7, 38, and 55%. So much hinges on that. Now, not entirely because you could not be open, but I would try that route. It depends. You can say, you're so weak, or I really need your strength. I gave you those scripts on how to inspire your man. I really outlined very micro scripts. A lot of those scripts are there. Instead of saying, oh, you're so awful, you could say, that really hurt me. And I want to just challenge you to really protect me as a woman. I just need your strength. I need your courage right now. Do you see the difference in kind of like speaking ill to them and telling who they're not, as opposed to switching the words that we use to create a better invitation? It's almost like sometimes when we say something, we should kind of hold our tongue a little bit and pause and be like, oh, that could be a strategic way to say that could be received better. That is maturity in a woman. That is how you reclaim your womanhood, that you have the capacity to police your voice, your words in that moment, and you say, what's the most strategic way to do this so that it is received in a way that I actually want it to be received. That's with most things in our life. But I would also question who we are as a wife. So much when I do a lot of training with women, and when it comes to being a wife, the first thought that comes to mind is their spouse. Now, that's usually pretty telling in the level of maturity. I'm not bashing anyone here. I'm saying all of a sudden we think of all the things, right? We're listening to the training and all the things that our spouse are not, instead of saying, what are all the things that I'm actually responsible for that I can actually put into this relationship, so that now the buck stops at me, because that's the only one I can control. That is a shift in elevated mature perception. Now, that's a habit, because the ultimate habit when you're listening to a talk, a training, is the other person. But the habit that we want to build in this new woman is, what am I responsible for? Every single thing you hear, you always just say, well, what am I responsible for? So that's the shift in all the things you're hearing in the masterclass is, oh, I could have done that better. I will do that better, and I will choose this version of myself. So when I think about like, just be yourself, well, what does that mean? Just be your authentic self. Well, what if your authentic self is mean and unkind? So it's a language that's deceptive, and you hear all them, just be yourself, be who you are, love yourself. Well, what does that mean? Really? And so the invitation is to live a life of excellence. So what does letting my husband be himself? Well, it depends. Is he choosing to be his greater self? That's the goal. And that's, what's his habit right now? Is his habit more discipline? Or is it that he has chosen sort of binge watching on Netflix and poor habits that don't actually help him to live a life of excellence? So I don't think it's necessary to be authentically genuine yourself as it is to choose your higher self. His best self has an effect on our marriage, absolutely. And so is your best self. Is it possible without any intervention? That's a really good question. He has to be open. You can't force it upon him. But before you even think of intervention, I would focus on being your best self. This is the advice that is hard for women to hear because it's not immediate. It requires your interior work and you just want to change your husband because you're suffering. All understood. But give yourself permission for the next 6 months, 8 months to say, I'm going to go all in on sacrificing my old self to give rise and give birth to my new woman, this new self. Lead with who you are. Lead with inspiring him with your life of excellence. Don't lead with changing him. Why? Because it feels hypocritical to him because he hasn't seen your transformation. He then feels like you're selling him on changing himself when you yourself have not changed. No, I'm not saying that you're not changing. I'm saying take the focus out of him and put the focus on your formation. Now, it's not the answer that most women want to hear, and I understand that. But I will tell you, it is the most effective answer. It's the most effective. And then when you're 6 months in and he sees, wow, she gets up early, she has a dream, she likes herself, she loves all these things, right? And I talk about the life of wholeness. She's managing her friendship, she's letting go of toxic friendships, she's exercising, she's eating healthy, and then you can say, honey, I'm finding greater fulfillment in becoming a whole version of myself. Are you open? Are you open to joining me? Now, that's got greater credibility than saying, hey, you need intervention and therapy. But when you become the walking inspiration, then you can invite. Remember the I3? You invest in yourself, he sees your improvement, and then you can invite him. And that's because he's inspired by you. Made you rewire, write, recite, repeat, retreat. So every single day, you choose one belief, you go for 15, 60 days, work with your coach, and you rewire that belief. The first interior work that we do is your unconditional worth. My worth is unconditional. What I offer the world is unique and irreplaceable. So that's replacing your belief. So pick one limiting belief and over again, write it, recite it. You have to go back to some of the lessons of rewiring our brain, but you just write it. You write it over and over 10 times a day. Ryan actually does a great job still doing this up until every morning, I think. So you have that rewire your limiting belief. And it, I can't emphasize this enough because it does feel like, January, there's so many different things I'm working on. Remember the gymnast. The gymnast works on one muscle at a time, one training at a time. And that different training, the jumping, the twirling, whatever the different positions of the gymnast, that all comes together. And then one day you realize, you're not even thinking about jumping and twirling. It just happens. You're putting this floor and you're just dancing and you're putting this show. That's what it's going to feel like a couple of years from now if you're diligent and vigilant and intentional. But initially, it's going to feel like what cartwheel looks like for me right now, which does not look really pretty. Type of love. I actually address it in one of the relationships. So I have understood that you have said there's a lot to gain and learn from these friendships in a way we cannot with female friends. Absolutely. And I address that. As we glean from the lessons on friendship, what are your thoughts on how we can navigate these male-female friendships therefore is healthy, growth-oriented? So I think that female and male relationship, when you get married and is in an intimate relationship with somebody, your engagement gets replaced. It cannot continue the way it is because that close friendship has to be replaced with the most intimate, sacred relationship. So it just changes. You're saying yes to this person, no to the other person. So now my friendships with men really had to dissipate the moment I chose Ryan. I had great friends. I had such quality friendships in my pre-married years. And I think that I had to switch that relationship when I met Ryan. And it was sort of kind of initially Ryan and I got closer and it was sort of switching switching, kind of severing ties, not severing ties, but changing the type of relationship. Instead of me coming to that person, now I was going to Ryan, right? And then once you get married, your relationship with another guy is very guarded. It just is way too dangerous when you have exclusive relationship with another guy apart from your spouse. So what am I saying to you? It's no longer the same once you get married. Why? Because they should become the reflection of the other. They're the male expert in your life. So I have friends that are guy friends right now that are married couples with Ryan, but I don't really have an exclusive friendship apart from Ryan. As a matter of fact, I'm very careful. I have friendships all the way from my youth group. These two guy friends of mine, they were like brothers to me, June and Tyrone. And every single time I even have a conversation with them, I just let Ryan know. It just makes me feel like I am hiding nothing. And it's a goofy conversation, and Ryan knows. And, we might check in every now and then, once a year, twice a year. But it's just a very intentionally guarded space that I think is so. See, the thing is that and I talk about the sacred space, it's lesson 42. It's so sacred that it belongs to somebody who's earned the right to be there. And that's how we need to look at it. I hope that suffices, but you can have a follow-up question. But when you're single, that relationship is necessary, in my opinion. It's so necessary, especially because you learn so much about men through those male relationships, but never without boundaries. After all, it's a great question. It's been up and down through different seasons of my life. I am very grateful for who they are. They have given me so much, and they have suffered. I've always been sort of close to my dad. There's been peaks and valleys in that relationship, including my own mother, but I really honor them. I honor who they are. I honor what the gift that they've given me in my life. I think that they have suffered in their own marriage at the expense of making us happy as children. So for that, I'm grateful. They sacrificed coming to America and left us just so we could have. So I think that I value them so much as a human being. I've always had a close relationship with my dad. Not so much my own mother, but I think that's healing as we continue in our relationship right now. So it's been a real gift. So I'm fierce about my boundaries with my relationship with even my extended family. So what do I mean by that? When you have eight children and you're creating that family life, I don't want to be around anyone that's toxic and negative. It's just something that I have decided for myself. Toxic conversation, draining conversation. And I'm not talking about my mom and dad. I'm just talking about family in general. And so when I sense that in my family, I just create a space. And that's because I know myself well enough that I don't want that to encroach on my ability to be present to my children. So I just create the sort of physical boundaries. But I don't know if it suffice. It could be better. That's a good answer. Leadership. Yeah, you just never look at male and female the same. Absolutely. You could have the same script, but yeah, if it's male counterpart, I would have a slightly different script and say, Pastor, I think I need to sit down with you. Here's the thing with the difference with men and women. So if I'm coming in like, can I just hold you accountable for something? I just wanted to let you know, that's going to be received in a way that would feel as though you have less credibility. Do you see what I mean when I say firm and tender? James, can I sit down with you? There is a strength in your tonality that remains humble, nurturing, and tender. You don't ever have to get off your feminine horse. You stay that course, okay? But you lead as a woman. That's why it's not this male, masculine, female energy. No, you lead as a woman. You lead always with with your feminine heart. So let's just say to Jane, can I just sit down with you? Listen, I love who you are. I wouldn't say that to a man, but obviously I have to love it. I really enjoy you. I really like who you are. I wouldn't say that to a man, And I think recently I've noticed that you have blah, blah, blah. And I just want to make sure you're okay, or maybe there's something that I can do to serve you, because I think that how you're showing up is not healthy for the team. pause, your self-image, your tonality, your script. I mean, you know how people practice for sales? Why don't we practice for accountability and tonality in our communication? It's no different, if not, sometimes it's more important because it's a greater degree of importance. It's the same thing. So you write it, recite it, you practice it, you engage it, you make sure you check your motivation, you check your heart, you check everything, and then you deliver. And then you learn from your failures. Recommendation. Well, I guess my question to you is, do you have peace in yourself? I think once again, it's focusing on investing in you and your peace of mind. How do you manage your thought? How do you manage your day? Do you have a dream? I think I start there. And you start with yourself, and then that higher version of yourself enters into marriage. There's going to be a time where when you're investing in yourself right now, especially we've had maybe a challenging marriage, I almost just tell the women, just pivot your focus real quick. Just in this period, we just need to ease your heart and kind of take a step back and just focus on investing in you. You're still taking care of your spouse and making sure but you're taking the focus on what can I do for my marriage to what can I do for myself first. Formation. I mean, I find it just a sad truth that so many are suffering in marriage, and we keep talking about the solution, and the therapy does not include formation. It's like the biggest oversight in the solar system. Babe, where's that from? It's from Jim. It's when I say that.
Oh yeah, that's
it's a comedian. It's Brian Regan.
Brian Regan, yeah. No valet parking in the emergency room is the biggest oversight in the solar system.
So I just think we have it backwards. So I have studied a little bit of Montessori, maybe not a lot of it, and it struck me that one of the Montessori teachers that I admire so much, because we spend so much money in college education and not the 0 to 6 years, which is the 90% of brain development that builds the foundation. We spend so much on rehabilitation and not actually the foundation of a child. And I think that's the same idea. When you think about marriage, we have so much therapy, there's all these marriage confusion, but nobody ever kind of talks about, well, these are the skill set that you need to actually have a thriving marriage. Okay, here's a question I have for you. The skills that you're learning here in the women's school, if you learned it prior to married life, show me in the comment, would it change the quality of your marriage? I mean, honestly, the skills that you're learning here, tell me, how would it change the quality of your marriage life? Because imagine mind management, emotional command, recalibrating, managing through challenging expectation. Why aren't we actually giving these skill set to our teens and our children prior to, so that there's no collateral damage called children while they're trying to figure life out, while they're trying to build a house with no tools? Literally, it looks like that to me right now. Married life looks like that to me. They say, let's get married. And I want to build this beautiful house. I want to be so in love. And I'm not talking about a physical house. I'm talking about the life that we want to build with that spouse. And then you walk in and you're like, I have a hammer. That is all I have. I actually was speaking to somebody yesterday, and she goes, the only tool I had in my toolbox, January, was to offer it up. And I thought, that's what we're doing. We're just saying we don't have skills that are, essential to not just being in love with each other, but remember, you're married, you're building a home, a life together. And I think, okay, we're having, what is it called? Pre-Cana? For one day, you have Pre-Cana. And it touches on the spiritual life, maybe. And it has it can't even land. Like, why don't we teach couples to dream? Without a vision would perish. Massive oversight in the solar system again. Couples who don't have a dream will perish. Like, shouldn't that be even right out of scripture, right out of the formation of the whole person, right out of the formation of marriage? Like, why? I mean, obviously I'm passionate about this, and here's why I'm passionate about it. Because I have front row seats to women's wounds. And you know where the greatest wounds are? Marriage. Marriage is literally stifling what? The very call we have to change this world. Because day in and day out, they are faced with the person that's stifling them from who God created them to be. And both ways. But see, because you're constantly with that person, can you imagine? Let's just dare to imagine that the person you are marrying, that you're supposed to marry, that we create the infrastructure of the world and say, the person I wake up to every single morning is actually what I'm so excited because I know at the end of the day, I have become a better person because of him. No, they're not my cross only. I just can't stand this idea that marriage is this place that is so hard. You offer it for the rest of your life and you die in this mental prison and that's a marriage. Like, really? No wonder nobody wants to get married. Like, a beautiful marriage can truly save the world. And I'll tell you, the foundation of family life is the couples. But you have been robbed. I say this to you because you have been robbed. If your marriage is suffering right now, it has been an injustice done to you because you came into marriage with a hammer. And that's it. And they told you to build a mansion with 5, 6 children with a hammer. That is an injustice to you and your spouse. Both of you and your children are suffering because nobody gave you the proper preparation that actually you needed to fulfill your deepest desires of your heart, which God gave to be fully alive in the very man that he gave you. Like, you've been robbed. Highway robbery. Now, our wounds can become our greatest compass. I was that woman. I saw the injustice of marriage. I didn't have any words for it. It was so bad that I'm like, why don't my parents just like leave? Like, it was so frustrating for me as a woman that I was like, they just need to be apart. It was toxic. And they did, you know, after I got married, and they suffered. See, the thing is, my parents were great people. Together, they brought out the worst of each other. So your greatest wound can become your greatest compass to your children. You can't change your past. You can't change your husband. What can you change? Who you are and who you serve. The pain that you're enduring right now in your marriage, I don't know what everyone's going through, could be the very reason why you're like, I need to start coaching women. I need to start forming women. That's what I'm doing. That's what I decided to fuel my own pain with my fire to say, listen, stop it. We've got to create a foundational school that prepares women how to be a woman, how to be a wife, how to be, you know, a friend, everything. Because everything that you're learning in this masterclass is going to fuel your marriage. I don't think there's any, even the kitchen skills I give you, it's going to make your marriage better. All of that is essential. And because of that, you're suffering. You're suffering. I'm not saying you, but women are suffering.